I dusted it off and I cleaned it off, and it's super neat. It's really nice, like, you know, like a huge flag that you can put kids' pictures in. And it's like, it's just super true. I've been doing a lot of like PBIS type stuff.
Okay.
And we were talking about
How you doing?
youth summit at the end
Maintain.
of the like
Maintain.
into all those leading to
Oh, right. Like I don't want to maintain, but I'm like at this point, like I don't have no choice but to maintain.
Is Davis joining us tonight?
I ain't doing that as much as I usually do.
Oh, I have not heard differently.
I try to at least grab me an hour or two just me time.
A day? I mean,
I ain't been able to do it the past 3 weeks, so I've been pretty much around about 9 o'clock, but I usually just try to shut everything down like at 7. I ain't been able to do that the past couple weeks, the past couple months, really.
do it a break free. I can't even tell you the last time I actually did that. That's good.
X married in town. I might have to stay home.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Grand Rapids Public School regular board meeting on October 2nd. We welcome and appreciate your presence at this meeting. We respectfully request that you turn off cellular phones and refrain from clapping, cheering, or making audible comments. We invite you to make formal public comment during the designated times, either on agenda items or non-agenda items, or both if you wish. Please fill out a comment card and submit it to the back table as soon as possible so that we can make sure that we get you in the appropriate time, and you would need to limit your comments to approximately 3 minutes. We'll start with the roll.
Reitman? Lewis is here. Ms. Melton? Here. Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Ms. Shockey?
Here.
Ms. Wade?
Present.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
President Williams?
Present.
Before.
Approval of the agenda. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. First, we have celebrations.
Good evening, everyone. And so I am excited to invite our scholars forward. We had our Smart Art honorees 2 weekends ago downtown in Grand Rapids, and to be able to see the brilliance of our young people. And so I will invite Dan Van Til and Representatives Mr. Eric Harmson to introduce Smart Art.
Good evening, President Williams and Dr. Roby and distinguished board members. We're here to celebrate our GRPS scholars who shared their talent and artwork for Smart Art this year. I would like to thank Consumers Energy, the City of Grand Rapids Art Prize for their sponsorship and support of Smart Art and our GRPS scholars. I'd also like to thank our K-12 art teachers whose tireless work to provide high quality instruction results in fantastic artwork. And it is my pleasure to introduce Dan Van Til, our Fine Arts Coordinator, who put in lots of hours and work to make sure Smart Art went very smoothly this year.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Hello, board, student representative Mayon, and student representative Davis. It's my pleasure to really talk about Smart Art. We're excited about this. Smart Art is a student art competition that invites high school art students from the Grand Rapids Public Schools to respond to the concepts of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and the environment. All right, good. This contest began in 2013. That's this competition's 10th year, which we're really proud of. It's a partnership, like Eric mentioned, with the Grand Rapids Public Schools, Consumers Energy, and Art Prize in the City of Grand Rapids. It's open to all GRPS students in 9th to 11th grades. It represents work from multiple mediums. This year there are 43 pieces of art submitted, along with artist statements that students were instructed to make those 250 words or less, which is, if you've done any writing, that's difficult, especially if you're writing about something you're excited about. There were 2 rounds of adjudication that the work went through with panels of experts in the fields of science, English language arts, and of course visual arts. The final award announcement event was on September 17. Dr. Roby spoke and presented awards along with representatives from Consumers Energy on that date, and Eric Harmson was there supporting the event as well. The winner was recognized at the Art Prize closing ceremony on September 29. And again, we do have, like Eric mentioned, partners, Art Prize, City of Grand Rapids. Behind the Mitten podcast was there. Some of our students, including our winner who you'll meet tonight, was featured on that podcast. You can find that podcast on Spotify and other streaming platforms. And of course, this event couldn't have happened without Consumers Energy. And with that, I'd like to welcome Nathan Henschel for Consumers Energy to say a few comments.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Eric, and members of the board, President Williams, Dr. Roby. Thank you so much for allowing us this time today. Smart Art for us is really one of our most cherished events that we do every year, and the way to involve youth in Art Prize. We're so thankful for your partnership and also to the City of Grand Rapids and Art Prize for them to give us the time on the stage this past weekend. It was amazing, and their highlight of this event is it truly means a lot for our students, and we've heard that what an impact this has made from past winners that go on to pursue careers in the arts, maybe some even in energy. It's a wonderful partnership, and we really, truly appreciate your support, and Dan, all of your work on this event this year. Really couldn't do it without you all and the students, and so it's really just an honor and a privilege, and I thank you. Thank you for recognizing us, and thank you for allowing this to go on for now 10 years.
Thank you, Nate. This is an image of the Smart Art Top 10 finalists right here. There was also a People's Choice winner from Ottawa Hills High School. We did have a consumer-sponsored People's Choice event, and Matthew Pierce from Ottawa Hills High School won that distinction. And these are the top 10 finalists, the adjudicated finalists, from 10th place to 1st place. Claire Kirkbride from Union High School and her art teacher, Rebecca Smith. Zara Blackman from Innovation Central High School and her art teacher, Carolyn Hintz, who's in the auditorium right there. Emma Hogewin from C.A. Frost Middle High School and her art instructor, Deborah Doss. Rachel Sackett from City High Middle School, her art teacher, Megan Whittle. Chloe Gus from City High Middle School and Chloe's actually from, C.A. Frost and her art teacher, Deborah Doss. J.C. Doyle, C.A. Frost Middle High School, Ms. Deborah Doss again. Josiah Willink from City High Middle School. Elliot Redwine from City High Middle School, and his art teacher, Kendall Exelby. Precious Herrera from Southwest Middle High School, and her art teacher, Michelle Van Cocker. And then our winner, who's also joined us in the auditorium. Josh, if you could please stand. Joshua Kortenhoven from City High Middle School, and his art teacher. And his work, Green Shoes. The work has been taken down, but I believe there's a big banner hanging up on Fulton Street, just west of the Van Andel Arena. You simply cannot miss it. It is enormous. We're really excited to have it there. And thank you, President Williams and the board. We appreciate your time and opportunity to celebrate this incredible event. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I wouldn't mind giving Josh a minute to tell us about his inspiration behind this deal here.
Okay. I mean, as a 15-year-old myself, I use my shoes and my feet to get around pretty much everywhere. Like, I'm pretty much biking everywhere right now, or walking or running. I run cross country for Ottawa Hills, so that's pretty great too. But, yeah, so I think just using our foot power to get more places is really important for the environment, because we get to see more beautiful things and small things when in our communities and stuff, as well as save or reduce carbon emissions by not driving everywhere. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
What's always so fun about this experience, as this is my 4th year, I think, participating in Smart Art, just the brilliance and the inspiration and hope that our young people provide all of us, and how they see their world in the future. And so it was a wonderful event, and all of our honorees were our winners because, again, to be able to put forth passion and to demonstrate that in an artistic way is certainly a talent that many people aspire to have. And so I'm just always very excited to celebrate this event each fall.
Thank you.
So I will say, I got the privilege of seeing you both on Saturday at the closing ceremony of Art Prize, and so congratulations on handling yourself very well in front of a group of about 1,000 strangers that you got on stage, and so congratulations to you again.
Thank you, Mr. Eatman.
If I may add, on his way to homecoming too.
Yeah.
He stopped by, yeah.
Good deal. Great.
Alrighty, thank you. Next we have,
More celebrations. And so this is the third anniversary of an award established by, it is the Jean Hamilton Cope Teacher of the Year Award. And what's so very important about this is that as we are talking about the work that our teachers do, they do lots of big things as well as many small things that have just such great impact. And so the family of Miss Cope, with donors Lori and Grand Mark, who donated funds to the Grand Rapids Foundation to establish this year's award. And this is Jean Hamilton Cope, who is a former GRPS teacher. I think this is a way to recognize the memory of Miss Cope. And also, you know, again, you want to give people their flowers to say they're doing big things. And so Mr. Beresford will come forward and make the introductions related to our honorees this year.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Roby. Board, welcome. This annual tradition that I get to shepherd is so much fun. There's always recommendations made between May and August, and it's so hard to narrow it down, but we do use a rubric that's aligned to our vision of excellence to get there. And so the selection committee has awarded, based on the final scoring, the following 3 individuals. I'll introduce both of the winners that we have in person, and then also read a little bit about them. So first, for the elementary division, Dominic Bilkeny. He's not the most senior teacher of the small school at Kent Hills, but he displays leadership attributes daily within the classroom and school. He arrives at the school well before many others to prepare lessons and is often the last teacher to leave the building parking lot. That's like the Marines. And he works to ensure that the lessons are engaging and differentiated to meet the 4th and 5th graders that he's honored to teach this year in his classroom. He serves on just about every committee that they have at Kent Hills. He takes the lead on the PBIS team, serves and provides input and on the ILT team, and he's the unofficial social committee leader too. So everybody needs a sunshine club.
That's right.
All right. And then second, for the middle school division, Miss Burns is a middle school Spanish teacher at City High Middle. And she is not with us tonight because she prioritized the commitment she made to parents for their parent-teacher conferences that are happening right now. And so we will make sure that we have another time to honor her at a GRPS-F event in the future. So you'll be able to meet her. She's a hard worker and is willing to support the City IB programming in whatever capacity she's able. She has volunteered year after year to help provide lessons and curriculum and guidance to vacant positions or long-term subs. She also serves to mentor not only within her department, but within the whole school. She's a dedicated member of the City High Middle community and loves the scholars and families. And then for our high school division, we have Miss Shilton with us, who's a longtime math teacher for GRPS and at CA Frost Middle High for the past 8 years. Not only has Ms. Shilton been a highly effective teacher in the classroom, but she also has been a great advocate for students outside of the classroom as well. She's senior class advisor, assessment coordinator, graduation coordinator, and field trip planner for the high school. Ms. Shilton engages students in her lessons while incorporating that environmental theme into the lessons. And she has been a great mentor to staff and scholars alike and always works hard with every individual to help them become the best versions of themselves. So now I'll turn the mic over to Mr. Dave Cope from the Hamilton Cope family.
Thank you for having me. My voice is a little screwy, so we'll just have to play with it. This is my sister and her husband's award. They're the one that put up the money. But she couldn't be here because he's had some pretty bad illnesses over the last while. Came very close to losing his life. And he's better now, but he can't travel yet. And a trip all the way to Grand Rapids from California is a bit much. So she asked me to do it. I'm her big brother. I was the troublemaker in the family, as you can imagine. My mother was a single mom who was raising 4 of us out in Cascade. And she taught at Huff School, which is now Huff Park, I guess, and kindergarten. She was one of the most dedicated teachers I have ever seen in my life. She would be up at 4 in the morning, working on the stuff she had to do. If there was a snowstorm or something on our big long driveway, she had me out there shoveling snow. And her principal said, I can't understand why some of these people live 4 blocks away from the school in a snowstorm, and they don't come in to work. Mrs. Cope comes in no matter how far, and it doesn't matter how bad the snow is. And she was. She was the custodian in her building said that she was famously one of the most disorganized teachers she ever saw, but that just meant she piled up everything on her desk. But she gave them everything. That's all I can say. When they had those big celebrations and such, she put on the biggest show with her students that you'd ever expect from any of the grades. And this kind of brings that back to my mind too, especially given that I was the troublemaker in the family. I caused her more trouble. I should have been, I mean, I was a good worker, but pain in the butt. Anyways, Lori and I had quite a conversation at that point about the significance of what she taught us while she was in her sorrows from losing her marriage, not letting it get in the way most of the time, but really wanting to raise us so that we would be decent people as we grew up. And both of us graduated from U of M, so something had to be right. I went to GRJC too, but that's another story. Anyways, I wanted to touch on the candidates next. I was on that committee, and I read all the descriptions of the people that were promoting one of their fellow teachers. And I was kind of astounded because you know, I was a custodian for years at Hall, at Sigsbee, at oh geez, out there never mind, but a lot of other schools. And every school I was at as a custodian, you see what the teachers are like all the time. I knew GRPS had some of the finest teachers in the entire area because I saw it daily. My mom was a teacher and I knew how to gauge what was a good teacher. Very seldom did I see anything that really made me upset. But I loved cleaning up after the kids. Anyways, what I saw in these candidates this year confirmed for me that the schools have not changed at all from the time when I was a custodian. I'm very pleased to be a part of this. You have great teachers. And I'm very pleased about it. So our candidates here, got 2 of them anyways. I don't know if they want to speak or what.
Yeah, either of you like to share?
I will, just because I have Jayla. So thank you, Jayla, for the nomination. I really do appreciate it. So this is my 28th year with GRPS. So my first 19 at Union, and then when Frost opened the high school, moved over there. And I just, it's the kids. They're just the most wonderful group of kids. It is just so much fun to spend time with them. I learn more from them than I'm sure they do from me. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to keep serving the kids because they're just so much fun. They, you know, when I get up in the morning and there are those mornings where like I really don't want to get out of bed today, they're the reason I do. And by the time I get to school, the smile is on and we're ready to go because they bring so much good energy. So I just thank you to the kids because they're the reason we're there.
Yep.
Okay.
To that, that'd be what I would say.
So next,
I'm a parent to two students who have had Miss Burns, and this Miss Burns, she's awesome. So I just want to thank you. One during a pandemic, and she was a tremendous communicator and a tremendous.
Thank you so much.
thank you. So next steps are that our partner GRPSF will connect with these 3 educators to make sure that they get $1,000. That it's theirs to enjoy.
Awesome.
Right? Well earned. Also wants to honor the recommendations, the rest of the recommendations too. So we're going to add that layer in this year and we'll figure out a nice way to show appreciation to all teachers that were recommended. And then you might see them, we'll do the paperwork before the state deadline to make sure we put them up for Teacher of the Year statewide, which we yielded results with last year as getting Region 3's Teacher of the Year, so we know how to do the paperwork. And then you might see them at future GRPSF events. We make sure that we extend a free invitation for them and their +1 to get in on some of those events. So. Then you'll be able to meet Miss Burns in person. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Would like to come forward to take pictures with our honorees. And our final celebration this evening, today is, I should do a trivia. Does anybody know what today is?
Janitor's Day, Custodian's Day.
It is also National Custodian Day. And so I want to take this time, although we don't have custodians right here this evening, but there are a lot of things that our custodial staff do behind the scenes, and we want to acknowledge and lift up the work that our support staff do every day to help our buildings feel like a place of well-being and welcoming. And so as we have seen our support staff do things often without notice, we want to acknowledge that as well. They are the hidden heroes of our building, and so I think it's important that we acknowledge the work that they do. And so as you see our custodial staff this week, please just make sure that you thank them. And finally, and I said this was the last thing, it is also Principal Appreciation Month, and so with our building leaders, there's lots of things that they do as well, and sometimes it's a little bit of everything from nursing to custodial staff, to teaching in classrooms. We want to lift that up as well. And so we have the month of October just to lift up our leaders as they are leading both instructionally and then also from a management place. And so just, again, we're really trying to be very intentional to acknowledge the work that's always in the forefront and then sometimes behind the scenes. And so thank you to our teachers of the year, our Hamilton COPE teachers, and I'm projecting forward that you might be teachers of the year, as well as our custodial staff and then our building leadership. And that concludes our celebrations for this evening.
Thank you. Next, we have our scholar representatives report out. And so we miss you last board meeting, Ms. Davis, so we'd like to welcome you this evening and allow you opportunity to go first. And make sure you speak into the mic. Maybe you can share about the scholar event this last week. You can share with the board about that meeting, how that went, what you all did at the scholar advisory meeting.
Yeah, that was the first one of this year, so it was kind of just getting the group together and kind of just introducing them to what it was going to be like throughout the year. So it was kind of fun. It was kind of more like a icebreaker, so everybody stopped being so nervous. Yeah, I think that's really it. Shout out my teacher, Miss Shilton up there. Congrats. I think that's all I got.
All righty, thank you. And Mr. Calderon.
Yeah, not much to not much to add. I just reintroduced our new juniors who are joining us this year. As well, we introduced topics that we like to speak of that we see that we can improve in GRPS, such as, standards of like the buildings or AC units, things like that we wish that we can improve on and help our other colleagues as well in.
Thank you. And we are at our first opportunity for public comment. Is the union representative here? Are you? Okay. First, we have Alan Shulsky. If you'll come up to the board's table, we'll have Mr. Lucas Levitt, and Sarah Saminsky. And then we will have some information that our board secretary will share with you before you start speaking.
Individuals will be invited one at a time to the speaker table to address the board during the designated public comment agenda time. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. You will need to state your full name before providing your comment. We will then start the timer at the beginning of your public comment and provide you with a 1-minute notice by flagging a red card indicating 1 minute remains. You will need to complete your comment time upon being notified that 3 minutes have passed. Board members do not respond to public comment. Concerns will be brought to the attention of the appropriate staff. We value your input and thank you for sharing.
Roxanne, would you like to come down? If you can come on down too. You can sit at the table with Alan and then we'll go from there. Not sure which of you would like to go first, whether it's you or Alan, but.
Hi, my name is Roxanne Chilsky. I'm a parent at Grand Rapids Montessori. I am here once again to address the treatment of our staff. In the past 7 weeks, I've witnessed numerous incidents where teachers and staff at our school have been treated poorly. They are undervalued and unsupported, not by our school community, but by the district. This is evident in communication, both the lack thereof and the intentional downplaying of issues in communication from the district. For example, when our school was experiencing construction delays to the start of our school year, district leaders took photos of our teachers setting up their classrooms to send as a construction update. They told them to smile in the midst of an incredibly upsetting situation and zoomed in on the teachers' hard work, cropping out any construction mess and unfinished construction. These issues have rocked our school community again this week. A lack of planning and communication on the part of the district has abruptly taken an incredible teacher from students who need routine, stability, and connection to create a safe and supportive environment where they can learn. All of that has been taken from them with a single day's notice. Students were given no time to process or make connections with a new teacher, and the new teachers were given no time to get to know their new students or their needs. Their learning will suffer because of the district's decision to forcibly move Miss Olivia to another school without any planning, preparation, or communication. The one message the district did send with these actions is that the district does not value our staff. This unsupportive environment, coupled with insufficient wages, reinforces over and over again that the staff are just pawns, movable, disposable, there to serve the district's needs and only that. We are at risk of losing more staff because of this. We all know that teachers are chronically underpaid. Support staff are not paid a living wage. It's unfair to assume that any household has more than one income. People do not work in schools for fun money. Every single person employed by GRPS should be able to support themselves and their families on their paycheck. You might think you have pawns to spare, but these people are the backbones of our community. And I ask you again, in a society targeting our schools in so many ways, why are you manufacturing this instability for our students and staff? All students deserve safety, connection in the classroom, and if you are unwilling to make the changes, to plan ahead, communicate, listen, pay living wages, act with grace and courtesy, for the sake of our students, staff, and community, do it for yourselves. Staff changes, hiring, and training are time-consuming and costly. Invest in the staff you have now. You cannot afford to lose them. We cannot afford to lose them. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan?
I'm Alan Cholsky. I'm a student at Grand Rapids Montessori. My school is not accessible. There are not ramps. Where there are stairs, there are not ramps. There should probably be ramps. No.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Schminsky. I'm the mother of 2 scholars at Grand Rapids Montessori Academy. I have a preschooler and a 2nd grader. I have a background in education, including an undergraduate and graduate degree in special education, and I have a 2nd grader who has Down syndrome. My daughter Hazel has been thriving in her inclusive school experience at Grand Rapids Montessori. However, on Thursday afternoon, our beloved special education teacher was notified that she was being moved to a different school within the district to fill a vacant position, effective last Friday afternoon. This abrupt change has sent ripples throughout our entire school community, specifically affecting our most vulnerable learners. Olivia Frody has been my daughter's special education teacher since she started at GRM as a kindergartner. My daughter has flourished with her special instruction and eye for inclusion. Hazel consistently meets her IEP goals, has had reduced support needs within the general education classroom, and is a motivated learner because of her dedicated special education teacher. My daughter struggles with transitions and changes in familiar faces and routines, as many children with learning disabilities and other disabilities do, and she's deeply benefited from the continuity and educators that the Montessori philosophy and the special education services have provided. Olivia has always gone above and beyond to promote an inclusive environment throughout our school, and her work has positively affected our whole school community. She has worked within the general education classrooms. She designed an inclusion week for our entire school community to learn more about the children with disabilities within our building, and has worked so hard to come up with out-of-the-box solutions to difficult issues within our building. We feel it's unacceptable to abruptly force a teacher to leave mid-semester. But this type of move is especially disruptive for scholars with IEPs. Day-to-day school can be so challenging for kids with learning disabilities, and they rely on their special education teachers to help them access the curriculum. And our teachers work so hard to meet their needs. And because of this move, Grand Rapids Montessori Academy, which serves children from preschool all the way through 12th grade, now has only 2 special education teachers. 1 teacher for our elementary and preschoolers, and 1 for our middle school and high schoolers. They're spending this week scrambling to adjust their schedules to accommodate new caseloads, and this disruption shows a total lack of care and regard for our school community and the learners who depend on these teachers to access general education. Our school community needs to understand why this teacher was moved with such short notice and disregard to the scholars she educates. My daughter is one of the first kids with Down syndrome to go through the GRM program, and our entire school benefits from the inclusion of learners like her. How will our school continue to be able to ensure her success and the success of students like her with a maxed out staff? What message does this send to our current staff and students and families who have children with disabilities?
Thank you all. Anthony Ochoa, Lucas Leverett, and Kelly Hun, if you'll come to the table. Lucas, if we could start, thank you.
Good evening, Lucas Leverett. Pardon my chicken scratch on that comment card. Thank you for your service on the board. Like most teachers, you receive not nearly enough compensation, but misguided distribution of pay is a topic for another time. My opening comment is concerning the approval of the agenda, specifically accessibility and transparency concerning the agenda itself. This is my first attempt to engage in one of these meetings. I found this agenda poorly represented on your website, not available from the district calendar where most people will go to find meetings, but only available via a separate button on the board page. Once loaded, through a shoddy and likely overpriced outside vendor's site paid for through yet another outsourced corporate welfare deal, I found it to be slow, clunky, and not at all functional for mobile devices. One would surmise that this body is uninterested in public and student feedback, especially student feedback, as your platform failing miserably on mobile is a tone-deaf omission of the primary devices used by young people to access information. It is also very unclear which items qualify for comment in this first comment period. Hence, my general commentary aimed at all items being mysterious for specific comment. It is a time for a lot of comfort, arrogance, short-sightedness, and bad old habits in this board and administration to be eliminated. And the agenda is a major example of this. Please consider massive improvements to this situation and your communications around it. Please also consider the wealth of affordable, local talent for whom you can serve one of the most important roles of government, creating jobs. Put people to work inside GRPS and stop outsourcing bad solutions. Most of your admin pay scales are ridiculous, so we know you could afford the entry and mid-level talent to make these kinds of improvements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening all, and thank you for allowing me this time to speak. My name is Anthony Ochoa. I have 3 kids at Grand Rapids Montessori. The youngest was a scholar of Miss Brody as of last Friday. On the GRPS site, in the About Us section, the Grand Rapids Public School belief, as listed, is such. We believe that all children can achieve their academic potential through effort, high expectations, and quality teaching. I believe the district failed in their part of this belief. I want to express my disappointment in the events and lack of foresight that led to the removal of Miss Olivia Frody as a resource teacher from the Grand Rapids Montessori Academy. I'm disappointed that incentives, marketing, other tactics were not fully utilized to ensure that necessary vacant special education roles were filled. I'm disappointed there was no forewarning and communication with the staff, scholars, and families, warning of any possible or potential pending staff changes. I'm disappointed a more appropriate contingency plan was not in place so as to avoid the sudden removing of a teacher after the start of a school year, after Miss Olivia has spent time cultivating a culture of trust and rapport with her scholars, and after said scholars have built the necessary and essential relationship with her as a safe educator, many of whom, as Ms. Sarah pointed out, have a special need for continued routine and for trust and care. Why are these vacancies happening? Why was this reassigning executed in this way? Are actions such as these creating a workplace environment that is unattractive to new staff and unsustainable for current teachers and staff? And maybe the primary reason past teachers have left our district. But most importantly, I believe it's detrimental to the scholars themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm also a parent at Grand Rapids Montessori, but at Montessori Middle School. For the 3 schools, there are 2 special education teachers for Grand Rapids Montessori. The change was shared with parents at 10 a.m. on Friday, September 29th, and was implemented today. Most special education scholars, my daughter included, who has a cognitive disability, so will need lifelong care, require time to adjust to major changes such as this. This major change for middle school students at Grand Rapids Montessori Middle School comes in the middle of the first quarter while the scholars are still waiting for a permanent math and science teacher after a change in staff after last school year. I have to question the thought process that went into this decision to take more resources away from a school that is proudly advertised by GRPS with the mission statement to provide an exceptional education through a nurturing and inspiring environment that strengthens each child's intellectual and emotional gifts, leading to responsible, compassionate, lifelong learners. How is that possible when they don't have permanent teachers, when the special education teachers are changed in the middle of the quarter? My daughter has had Miss Emily for 4 years, and now all of a sudden is supposed to start with a new teacher instead of the transition plan that has always been set in place between middle school and high school. That has been taken from her by this decision. Miss Emily is an incredible teacher. I do not know Miss Alward. I look forward to getting to know her. But her IEP was supposed to be today and had to be pushed off because now all of the caseloads have to be switched around. This is a problem for students, and there was not enough thought put into this. And I wish more thought could be put into this in the future because my daughter is 14, she's in middle school, and it's hard enough being in middle school with a disability. But to make changes like this, it's making it impossible for her. She cried this morning, said she didn't want to go to school because she didn't know which teacher was going to be there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Secretary's report.
Yes. The one thing I've been asked to remind folks on the board as well as in the audience that the scholar transportation update and parent feedback suggestions, that meeting will be held on Wednesday, October the 4th at Grand Rapids Public Schools University on Fuller from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And we'll have an opportunity to talk about transportation and our relationship with Dean Transportation, and we'll be taking feedback from parents who are concerned about. Thanks.
And then committee chair update from the Finance Committee, Ms. Shockey.
The Finance Committee met last week, and we started with a comprehensive presentation from our Director of IT and MIS, Craig Garib. It was really a timely presentation, as we frequently see technology purchases on the purchasing agenda, and it was a good reminder and refresher on the frequency and nature of those purchases within our district. A reminder that before 2020, our district was unable to retain a one-to-one student-to-device ratio. And it was through the pandemic funding and the ESSER funding that we were able to procure those devices so that our students had devices to learn from while they were home. And thanks to the ESSER funding, we've been able to maintain that stock of technology. But like all technology, it has a short lifespan, and also doesn't always return to school or finds its way to other places. And so Mr. Garib ran through how frequently we do need to replace those devices and what we're doing to ensure that our district will be able to do so sustainably after our ESSER funding goes away next year. I'll draw your attention to the purchasing agenda tonight. The Finance Committee did move that agenda forward, but had some questions. Ms. Cribbs did follow up with a good overview of the questions we had. I'll lift up some of the larger ones. There was a question about charging carts. That's one of our technology purchases that we've seen a few times. And we are getting to the spot now where we've replaced all of them that have aged. And so we got details on that. We also were given an overview of the amount of times we've need to replace those devices, as I mentioned before. So we've had 8 purchases to replace stock since October of 2020, and those replacements can be expected to continue. And then there was a question about our need to utilize a temporary staffing agency to fill some vacancies in the district, and a description of why that was given to us as well. Lastly, I'll just call your attention to 2 donations that are part of the consent agenda tonight so that we can express our gratitude to those who have donated to the district. First, we received a $5,000 donation from the Grand Rapids Airport Golf Outing. Thank you to those who participated and donated to Grand Rapids Public Schools. And we were really fortunate to be the beneficiaries of an estate from an alumni of Ottawa Hills. Mr. Jim Haven passed away and left $20,000 to Ottawa Hills for the music program. And we'll be sending one of our scholar musicians, a trumpet player, on a, let me see here, Ambassadors of Music trip to Europe this year, thanks to that generous donation and support of our scholars. That's my report.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. And so I just want to remind that everybody, Wednesday is our count day. And although count day is a day that across our state that we certainly make sure that we want to ensure that we are in school, but every day for scholar attendance is important. This is a learning institution, and we want to encourage in all of our families to make sure that you are present. Obviously, if you are sick, we don't want you to necessarily come to school, but on count day, we want to make sure that you are counted. With respect to other reports, we will have a presentation by Mr. Philip Green. I just want to make sure I have it in the right order. Mr. Philip Green, this is our Director of Nutrition Services. Mr. Green has been very responsive to the work of, the feedback from our community, including our scholars, and he is providing a update. One of the things that we have committed to as a district is to provide periodic updates related to nutrition services, and Mr. Green will be able to share some of the things that are taking place, as well as things that have that we expect for the future. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Green.
Thank you, President Williams, Dr. Roby, board members. Thank you for this opportunity to meet again. Excited about some of the things that we have moved forward with as we listen to the scholars as well as parents and other stakeholders regarding the food service department. One of the things I wanted to put up there just real quickly is the amount of things that when we develop a menu, there are a lot of items that are guidelines that go into that. For instance, the calories and sodium. When we are audited by MDE, they look at all the components of everything that we have listed up there. One of the challenges we've had over the last year is that January 1st, USDA reduced the sodium levels by 10%. So that was a challenge in itself, made us change some menu items. But as long as it averages over the course of the week, we're in pretty good shape there. Okay. Another thing, we did listen to the stakeholders and the the scholars, we are participating in the 10 cents per meal program, as well as the local Food for Schools program, as well as team nutrition. So there are 3 grants that we're actively involved in. Right now, we closed it out, I think the end of September was the submissions for the 10 cents a meal and the local Food for Schools. So we were able to get all the invoices in, and we got that to count. I think the funds will be distributed sometime in October.
While you're, before you advance the next screen.
Okay.
Go back. We've had an opportunity, one of the commitments that we've made as district leadership is also to inspect what we expect and to be able to periodically go and either enjoy lunch at any individual school on any given day, but also to see the choices. And that is an example of the fresh salad bar, and there's lots of different options for our young people, which I think is important to uplift.
Thank you. And leading off of that, one of our goals was to expand the availability of our salad bars. And basically those salad bars are either available as a standalone unit, on the line, or pre-made salads that we make at the Nutrition Center. Okay. Also, to increase our chicken items, we did test a 8-cut chicken, which I'll go in a little bit later on some of the items that we taste tested. Sub sandwiches, we actually, during my discussion during the summertime with the cook at Ottawa Hills, she had 2 serving lines. She broke the serving lines up into 2 different serving lines, where the left side was the main menued item. The second line is soup and salad bar. So if they want the soup or salad, they can go to the right. If they want the regularly menued item, they can go to the left. So it kind of gives them a little bit more of an option. Okay? And the cook was right on top of it. She was glad to be able to do it, and it's worked out well so far.
Quick question before
yes.
you move on. First of all, thank you for being here. So I'm wondering, so expanding the salad bar, can you tell me a little more about how many schools we used to have salad bars in, and now how many we're serving with the fresh salad bar? Do you have those numbers?
No, but I can get that to you as far as the exact numbers. All middle school and high schools either should have a salad bar or on the line or a standalone unit.
Okay, so that is our expectation, that every middle school and high school have one? Or was that already the practice? Because
It was the practice, but we're enforcing it even more now. If you have a situation where if we have a labor issue where because that salad bar requires another person to be able to manage it.
Right.
If they run into a situation where we're running into a personnel issues, they can order pre-made salads, or they can hand make the salads at the schools. And that's at any middle school or high school that they should be able to do that.
So when we were low on staff to not run the salad bar, was that a requirement to have those pre-made salads at the schools?
Yes.
It
They have
was?
the option to bring those in, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, appreciate the question. We are also increasing our utilization of parfaits, which is normally in the morning time during breakfast. And we are working in our nutrition center production kitchen to develop more vegetarian type items to give the students a little bit more of an option. And we are also back to, because our staff is up, making breakfast sandwiches back at the nutrition center. This is just a list of some of the new items that we've brought in. We're constantly looking for new items to add to the menu. We've increased what we call our cycle menu. So you won't see the same item every 2 weeks. So it should be at least a 5-week cycle before you see an item of the same. Okay. One of the items we're excited about is that veggie burger. We actually tried those. Any item that you see up there, we try at the nutrition center first with ourselves or with the cooks before we move it on to even try it with the students. Okay. And the veggie burgers are actually very good.
Mr. Green, one of the things that we've received feedback for is opportunities for young people to also, because they are obviously the end users, what is the plan specifically around allowing taste tests for some of these items?
Yes. If you give me a couple more slides, I'll get to that.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll hold it.
Okay. Again, my comment back to the standalone units as far as the salad bars. again, standalone units, the serving lines, or the pre-made salads. That picture on the right is actually from Southwest Middle High School. The top picture is from C.A. Frost Middle High School, and the left one, I believe, is from, I believe that's Southwest again. So again, we're trying to put as many fresh fruits out, fresh vegetables out as we can in the salad bars. Okay, taste testing. We actually did a couple taste testing this summer. We taste tested 2 new pizzas at Ford. We also tested the what we call an 8-cut pizza at Museum Middle School, High School. And basically, that's a chicken that has more parts than it could be a wing, a breast, a thigh. So we're still in the process of determining whether we will add that to the menu. Our team nutrition grant, next week we will be testing local vegetables at Southwest Elementary and Ford. And then later on that week we'll be at Southwest Middle High School, C.A. Frost Middle High School. So these are fresh vegetables that will be coming from local farmers that we will be sampling. We'll be sampling, I believe it's the peppers at Southwest and Ford, and we will also be trying a new salad mix that'll be on the salad bar. All of that will be from local farmers. Okay. And our plan is also to continue to do the taste testings as new items come out, where we can, it works especially well when we can get the brokers there, because they prepare the food, they serve the food, they'll even do some of the surveying of the students. Scratch cooking, basically the only items we're scratch cooking right now, the broccoli soup, our chicken and rice soup, and our chili. And that's actually done through Onion Crock, which is outsourced. Our commitment to the stakeholders, student advisory boards, I've actually been added to the agenda for the October 25th meeting, so I'll be speaking with the scholars there. Surveys, first survey went out today to grades 6 through 12, so that's our first initial survey. Planning to do that at least every other month, where we can get the surveys out to the scholars. Taste testing events will be ongoing. Just wait for some new items to come out, and then we will get those out to the scholars. Again, meeting with student organizations. Last year we did meet with City. We met with a couple other schools, and this, I call it a student body. I don't know if they call that anymore. That's what they called when I was in high school. But the student organizations, just to get some feedback regarding their individual school. Okay. And I had spoken about this earlier of possibly getting them back to the nutrition center, but I think some of the ones that are on the advisory board were there last year, so I don't know if that'd be exciting to bring them back out to the nutrition center again. But I thought that was value added so that they could see a little bit of how food services functions. Cafeteria additions. On the left there, we have spice racks now at the middle school and high schools. Those are sodium-free, but it does add an opportunity for the scholars to add some flavor to some items if that's what they would like to do. Okay. One of our initiatives moving forward has been to reduce the amount of aluminum pans that we are utilizing at the elementary schools. What we're doing is going to the clear containers, which I think look much more attractive for our our cold fruits and any shelf-stable item that we can put in the clear bins and eliminate the use of the aluminum pans. And on the right there, the middle school and high schools all have cutlery dispensers. So what we call the sporks, with the plastic sporks and the napkin, are not at the middle school and high school. If they are, they're just utilizing them until they run out of them. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
I'm still wondering about the gap between the salad bars that you have up there that are really great, and I'm excited that that's the direction we're going. But I'm sensing, and maybe I'm understanding this wrong, if the schools deliver those little packets with the kind of salad in it, does that mean they're not going to be going to the salad bar?
Well, there's going to be 3 different options, and one of it will be depending on the space that they have for the serving line. It could be the salad that are offered, and most of the time they're on the top shelf as the students go by, because the salads count as a full meal with the components that are in there.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering, at what point will all the secondary schools have those nice salad bars with all the choices for the kids to build their own?
No, they will not.
So they will not all have that?
Not the standalone units, no.
Okay. How do we decide who gets those and who doesn't?
Well, there are a number of factors. That space is one
Okay.
thing. The second thing is, do we have enough personnel to manage it properly?
Okay.
Because if I showed you a before and after picture of some of them, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. I know it's not working for all of our schools. Yeah.
Note of this, at present, when we asked that question, there are only 2 schools that don't have active salad bar.
Standalone, correct.
Standalone salad bar. And so I want to make sure that people understand that as well. And one of them is around space limitations. The other is something that I think we need to explore deeper, but we do have 2, every other school does have an active salad bar.
All except 2, and we don't have a solution for those 2 right now.
The one school, it's a space limitation, so I don't know what that is. The other school, there's other variables that we have not had an opportunity to investigate. So it might be just one school that does not have an active salad bar, where you're
putting it together.
free picking,
Yeah.
so to speak. The other thing I want to make sure that we lift up is from an engagement standpoint, we've talked about, are there opportunities for people to do, even our families to do some taste testing? And that's the connection, like at evening events and other things such as parent-teacher conferences, math night, literacy nights, where families can also taste kind of those small kind of items that might be coming forward on the menu, and as well as the Let's Talk app. That's kind of that two-way engagement, which we're not quite ready to launch yet, but you'll hear a little bit more about that, where it allows kids to kind of give some real-time feedback specifically around their experiences with nutrition.
Quick question with regards to the schools that are, I saw a few names up there. Will there be an opportunity for that to rotate through all of the schools at some point throughout the year, the taste testing opportunities?
Well, the team nutrition grant is basically with 4 schools, and we can select the school, but they're also, one of the schools we did not select, the secretary applied for the grant, and that's how the grant got it forward. But it's under the team nutrition grant. So under that particular grant, there's only 4 schools.
Well, I'm actually.
She's asking a different question.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
asking a different question.
Yeah.
So with regards to actual tasting of the
Right,
food,
right.
will that opportunity be rotated throughout all the schools throughout the year? For because I saw just a few names
yes,
there.
Absolutely. Good question. Yes, it will not be at the same school every time. So we will rotate that around.
Do you keep, and this is in addition to that, because I actually had that question written down about how schools are selected for taste testing. I noticed you mentioned about ongoing surveys every month, and then the taste test to be ongoing, but how are they selected in regards to those schools? Is it every school throughout the year? Is it only a certain amount for one school year, and then another school year there's an additional amount? How are you determining when and how often these taste testings are happening, what schools are allotted?
Well, I think taste testing, number one, depends on when the new items come out and which ones we will test. Will depend on, again, the availability of those products. We don't randomly select schools, but if we're looking at a certain item, we may pick a high school over a elementary school because the item may not qualify to be served at the elementary school. So it all depends on the items. It also depends on the capacity of the cooks to handle that. Now, a lot of times that's not a factor if we have the broker come in and the broker can handle, they cook everything, they serve everything. So it'll be spread around to all the different schools. It was Ford and I forget what I said, Museum. They were selected because they were summer schools. So there was really not that many schools to even select between during the summertime.
I think the question, yeah.
To a actual, yeah, my question is not specific to an actual season.
Okay.
This is about like how often are you choosing to select these schools to participate in the testing so these scholars can pick what is or is not working for their dietary needs?
My best answer is that when the new items come out, we will look at the various schools, and then there's no really selection process. We can pick any school to do it at. But again, if the new items aren't there, it kind of reduces the amount of testing that we would be doing.
I'm gonna interject. I think what's being asked is that if there is and we can help structure that where we provide opportunities. Obviously, with our high school students, there might be different food items that they have access to that elementary students don't. But we can create a structure of, as new food items come out, to make sure that there is a rotation from an equity standpoint so that it's not the same schools. Because I think that's what we're asking for.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can develop a schedule.
My follow-up question for you is around the last time you were here, and I want to say this was either March or February, you gave a presentation about this, and I'm happy to see that you're back now in the fall to talk about the changes that have been made. At that particular meeting, I brought up the question around you supplying culturally specific foods to some of the schools that are culturally enriched, in which you actually stated that those were things that you were working on. So I wondered if you could provide an update on how that's being implemented and what schools have that been implemented at.
Well, I thought that the list I gave before was pretty culturally diverse. I broke it down on some of the different cultural items the last time I presented, but I don't know whatever other items we could add to that. I mean, I broke it down by, I don't want to say by ethnic group, but there were some Hispanic items listed, there were some Italian items listed, so I can break that down and get that to you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wade, I thought I saw you with a question.
Yeah, when you receive your 10 cents a meal report, they kind of tell you how many local farms you supported through your purchasing.
Yeah.
When you receive that, can we see that? It's just interesting information.
Absolutely.
It's something that we probably can report to our community as well.
Okay.
That might be something that we include on our dashboard.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then also,
If it was made.
thought I remembered there was some type of instant feedback that was going to be put in the cafeterias.
That was
That's what we were
stated too.
talking about with the Let's Talk app. We're not quite ready for that, but it was something where it allows young people to give real-time feedback related to their experiences related to food. Yep.
So in our elementary schools, is there just like, okay, you know how you're in the bathroom at Target or Meijer, and you walk past and it's like thumbs up, thumbs down, or happy, sad?
And we just talked about this earlier today around that what looks for 6th through 12th grade, and then also upper elementary, and then lower grades to offer real-time feedback, because we want to be able to differentiate. And we talked about the smiley faces, like good, smiley, neutral, kind of the flat, and then sad face if it's not good. But we just had this conversation earlier today around how do we collect that information, because what a kindergartner may be able to offer around what they like or dislike will look very different than what a 11th grader is able to offer.
Mr. Calderon or Ms. Davis, do you have anything you would like to ask? Since you are both in the schools, and I'm assuming consuming some lunch there.
I know about the salad bar, stuff like that, as one of the schools that is actually not having it available. I understand that might just be a spacing thing with how our cafeteria is. My only question would be, you say that you change, that every 2 weeks there should be very different items that are not the same, and that we rotate them through the process, right?
That's normally you're talking the main entrees that are
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
menu. Yeah.
My question would then be, how many entrees do we have available? Because depending on that, couldn't we have extend that to maybe 3 weeks if we had more than 14 items available?
Actually, it's a 5-week cycle menu, so you shouldn't see the same item for 5 weeks.
Well, All right, then I guess I got a little bit misconstrued. But you answered my question.
Okay.
Don't worry.
For me, one of my schools is we have a salad bar, and I do like it because I mainly eat salad for lunch. But I think my main question would be, you talked about doing surveys.
Yes.
How exactly, like what type of survey? Because I know that like paper surveys or like a Google Doc or something, a lot of the kids might not know about it or might not actually fill it out. So what is your like, what's the protocol for that, like actually making us known for the survey that we have to take?
Well, my understanding, Mr. Leon, can you help me with that? Because my understanding it was going out electronically to the students.
We can talk about that when we come up.
Okay.
They're the next report.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have been working with Leon and others to get those set up, and our plan is to do that every other month. And the first one, as I said, went out today.
Can I ask one last? When you talk about space for the salad bar, is it like legal space or just space? Like, you know, in the cafeteria, it might have a legality around what type of space can be used for.
No, it's just space.
It's just space.
It's just space.
Okay.
There's no,
That's
yeah.
actually one cafeteria where there's a physical limitation at present. It doesn't mean that we can't make some adjustments, but right now, when I shared that with you, there's one cafeteria.
I'm sorry, I'm getting, Mr. Calderon, is there something else you would like to add? Because, it's kind of a little distracting, so, all right, go ahead, Dr.
Yeah.
Roby.
She answered, that's fine.
Yeah.
Awesome, is there anything else?
Yeah, I'm almost there, almost there. Just a real quick recap of the capital expenditures of what we can spend the food server dollars on. Had an opportunity to meet with the finance committee about a month ago, I believe, just to kind of cover some finances and some things regarding how funding is generated as well as utilized in food service. Last slide basically shows us the breakfast, lunch, and total school year 2021 versus school year 2022, 2023. We were basically at 100%. So lunch was almost, well, if you rolled it up to 100%, 99.7, 99, I think it was 0.4 for breakfast, and we ended up with a total of 99.4% of the meals served year over year. And that was it. Any questions?
I think we got them out.
All right. Thanks for your time.
I know Leon is coming up. If you could speak to the student representative's question as early as you can. I know that there is a conflict, and I want to provide an opportunity to excuse them sooner than later if they do need to leave.
So while Leon and Luke are coming up, one of the things that we are trying to be intentional and responsive to, and I'm sorry, and John Helmholt, you leave and then we just kind of.
It's like The Godfather, I'm back again.
That we want to make sure that we are being intentional and responsive to things related to our master plan as well as the dashboard, and so there are some things that are sensitive, that it is a growing document, and one of the commitments that we have made is that it's iterative, so it's not a one and done. And so what you are seeing is responsiveness to either growing feedback or changing conditions to make sure that we are providing updated information around the information that we have at that time. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Hendricks.
All right. Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Roby, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Excited to have Luke Steyer here to talk specifically about his role as the Reimagine GRPS project manager. We'll be talking specifically about the dashboard, what you see on there, what you don't right now, and what we are hoping for as that moves forward in the future. It is something we're constantly updating, and we've got a lot of feedback, so Luke will talk to that. But first, we're going to start with John, who's going to talk about where we are with the informational effort to make sure that folks know about what's going to be before them on Election Day, November 7th, and what we're asking for in that bond vote, and how we've made sure that folks know about it. John.
All right. Thanks, Leon.
I'm so sorry. Can you address the issue about the survey to the students so I can
Apologize.
excuse
Yes.
them? Thank you.
That's right. Luke has been working on the process of getting feedback from our young people in regards to the food that Phil was talking about. So Luke, please.
Yeah, so it's an actual Survey Monkey form, and it went out this afternoon to scholars in grades 6 through 12 through email. So you should have received it through, is it School Messenger?
Their Google email.
Through their Google email. So it would have gone out through email today. We'll collect those results this week. And as we talk about the dashboard, we'll talk about those results will go right onto the dashboard, and that those surveys will happen every other month, so that there's time in between the surveys for us to take any action that's needed to try and resolve any issues that come up.
And the surveys are disaggregated by school, grade, or what information are you collecting from the students regarding that so they can?
Incentives for even filling them out. I think first I'm gonna fill out a survey if I'm getting an incentive, or even if I can get in a drawing. I want to win something. But for students, like I put QR codes all through my building as well, just for my parents. But like just being able to scan that and do it in real time right at the lunchroom, it gives them a reason to interact with their devices and things like that. If they can have them in the lunchroom, I'm not sure.
I want to echo what my colleague just stated, because if we're hearing the scholars continuously talk about the options of food, what are we doing, or how are we positioning ourselves differently to collect that data that we're requesting to actually implement the changes that they're requesting to see? So we have to be innovative about how this approach, and I think that is one thing to make sure that we're getting a collective scholar voice with an appropriate amount of input, meaning data, students' input, to address those. So please, I think innovation around that, even asking student bodies how would they like to be engaged, perhaps they can tell you best. And so we're not coming from a paternalistic approach, but actually listen to what the students and scholars are telling us that they want to be engaged, and how they choose to be engaged will be important.
That QR code would be good first before I said it.
And then apparently, some swag might be worthwhile, an incentive to get them to complete that as well. So high school, whether it's for their school or GRPS swag, or even maybe tickets to a game, a big game that's coming up or something like that. Maybe we can try that. Okay, so then we're good. I will excuse our student reps if you need to leave at this time. I understand you have some other obligations with regards to homework or schoolwork, so feel free to excuse yourself if you need to, and then turn it back over to John.
All right, Dr. Roby, President Williams, members of the board, it's great to be here with you tonight. Just a quick update. As we know, Election Day is fast approaching. Absentee ballots are out, and our communications are continue to ramp up with multiple direct mail pieces, email, social media, website, radio, and so much more that's happening. We have another edition of the We Are GR newspaper that goes to every household, business, and residential household in the entire city. We have our couple meetings, family nights at the end of October, to raise awareness and to continue to share information with voters about what is this proposal, how do they vote, where do they vote, how do they vote absentee, and just continuing to get the word out about what this zero tax rate increase bond proposal is all about, how the $305 million are proposed to be spent, and any kind of frequently asked questions that individuals have about the bond proposal itself. Are there any questions?
All right.
All right. All right. We'll move along to the dashboard then. And as both Dr. Roby and Leon have said, this is a living dashboard that we are working to constantly update, adding new objectives and updating the objectives that are already there. It is not complete by any means now. We will continue to add more and more of the objectives from the Reimagine GRPS plan as we develop it. I want to just go through some of the updates that we've done here in the last few days. One of them is the Kensington demolition. We had the community gathering, which was one of the target goals last Thursday. We had hundreds of people, more than 400 people showed up for that event. I know some of you were there. It was such a unique community event, a chance for people to come together and walk through that building a final time. The company that is doing the demolition there is taking control of that building this week, and that will continue over the next few weeks as they do demolition there. But like on that item specifically, when you go to the dashboard there, you can now click on that link where it says community gathering, and it takes you right to the story that Leon and his team put together, and you can see some of the video from that event. In the facilities, food, and transportation, this is where we'll go back to the food survey. I know we've talked a lot about it at this point. The one addition I'll just say is right there on conduct regular surveys. Once we have the results, there will be a link right there, and you'll be able to click on that link and see the overview, the summary of what those results were from that food survey. And we'll continue to add those throughout the school year as we do those. And then as we take that feedback and implement food service changes, we'll put examples there of what's changing based on those surveys. So it'll all be contained right there, one spot where you can go see it.
Before you move on,
Yes.
are you going to hit transportation?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. I'll let you do it.
Transportation. So the next, we saw the quarterly updates at board meetings. We saw that at our last meeting. This week, as was mentioned earlier, we have the Dean Transportation Parent Town Hall that's happening Wednesday at GRPS University. And then the next step we'll be working on is the reformation of the Parent Transportation Advisory Group. I'm also going to be working with Dean Transportation to see what additional data from Dean we can put right on the dashboard, what they have regarding staffing so that it's right there readily available on the dashboard for everyone to see, and also what kind of data they might have about on-time performance, hoping that we can get data there and that will be displayed right there transparently for everyone to see. Hopefully it will be showing that we're making improvement over time, but that should be coming soon in the next few weeks as I work with Dean Transportation on that.
Before you move forward, go back, please. So you said quarterly, and this is checked off, so shouldn't this be 1/4 of a point and not considered to be 33% met? Because quarterly would mean that you have 3 more to go out of the 4. So this
Three
is not
objectives.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess the way we were calculating it is we have started those quarterly updates and they're going to continue. So we were saying that target goal has been reached. But if you would like us, we can recalculate those things.
I think just for transparency's sake, that should just be adjusted because it's giving like we've already completed all quarterly ones versus you having 1 out of the 4 to go.
Absolutely.
I also have a question as we're looking at the dashboard a little closer, kind of in that regard. And by no means am I trying to disparage this work at all. I appreciate this work. I just am wondering, have all these target goals set, and then have the public say, okay, you said you're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to hold you accountable to it. I mean, another example I'm looking at is what was I looking at? The food and transportation, or the one right above that, I believe. Yeah, so looking back at food service changes, and kind of to Trustee Eamon's point is like, we want to make sure that we are accurately displaying, okay, we did this quarterly, but it hasn't been done yet, so let's not check it off and say, okay, we are 1/3 of the way there. Is that making sense? Like, I want to make sure that, I guess in my mind, like, what comes first, chicken or the egg, right? Like, okay, we've got these things as target goals, but let's, I don't want to just put them on there just because they happen to be coming up. Does that make sense? I want them to be established goals for the district, so then folks, like I said, can say, you said you were going to do this far before, anything was announced for Dean Transportation on October 4th, and we want to make sure that it's happening.
So for the target goals that are on the dashboard, they are from the Reimagine GRPS plan from the booklet that had it separated by these same bullet points. For instance, under transportation, it didn't say hold a parent town hall on October 4th, but it said that we would provide an opportunity for parents to engage in that Reimagine GRPS plan. So that is the way it's then displayed on the dashboard. Dean Transportation provide quarterly updates at Board of Education meetings. That's an exact sentence right from the Reimagine GRPS plan. So it's taking those items and putting them onto the dashboard as we develop, as we're prepared to develop a timeline of when those are going to happen. So there's still a lot more in the Reimagine GRPS booklet that's not on the dashboard yet as we continue to go through and keep working to get all of those up there and an appropriate target date for those items.
Okay. And I hear you explaining it in a different way, but we're kind of saying the same thing, right? Like, okay, these things are developing as they go along. And I find it hard to see that as and I know it's not necessarily entirely an accountability tool, but I see that as not being an accountability tool whatsoever because we don't kind of project ahead and say, these are the things we're going to do. And I would like to see as you mentioned, right, this is in the Reimagine packet, so let's put it in there. And as we develop what it looks like maybe in the future, we say this is what we had as a placeholder, but this is something more specific to meet that goal, and then mark it off. Am I
Absolutely.
making sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We'll just show a couple more items. Air quality is one area we're going to make a lot of progress on in the next few weeks and months. Specifically, this item around HVAC systems. By the time it gets warm again next year, we'll have 4 more schools that will have operational air conditioning. And as those come online, 2 of them are in October, 1 in November, and 1 in January. We'll check mark those there. And then on the next slide, there's 2 more air quality items. Providing updates on air quality. Our facilities team right now is working to hire a contractor to test air quality in all buildings this school year. Once those results start coming in, we will post them right here on the dashboard. So you'll come right to this spot, and there'll be a link to where you can see all of those results. We're also working to get all of our schools to participate in the Michigan Safe School Air Ventilation Program, which provides free air purifiers for buildings. K through 12 buildings throughout the state. It's a state grant. 21 of our schools received those free air purifiers earlier this year, and the remainder of our buildings are now going through the application process with the assistance of our school nurses. On the next one, we've got talking about enhancing scholar advisory committees. These are 2 items from that Reimagine GRPS booklet. As we talked earlier, the district-wide Superintendent Scholar Advisory Committee is now formed for this year. They met last week, and we are now in the process of forming individual scholar advisory committees at individual schools, and that will be complete at all schools by the end of first semester. I believe that is all of the specific ones that I wanted to walk through, but lots of updates going on throughout that dashboard. We'll continue to add to it, and just a reminder that it's a living dashboard that we're going to keep working on and keep trying to add more specific data to it.
This is mainly for you, Dr. Roby. Can you go to our last slide? When it comes to the announcement, the formation pieces there, would this then graduate to a different metrics of measurement when it comes to the actual implementation of the individual school advisory boards? Or like, what is that next measure after the announcement is complete for that one?
So the goal is to make sure that every school in our district has a advisory board for developing agency with student voice and allowing some flexibility, because what looks like at an elementary level looks different from middle and what from a high school. And so our goal is to have different advisories for every school level and having a cadence of meetings. What that looks like, we do want to allow for some flexibility. And so for the scholar advisory with our 2 student representatives, for example, we meet monthly. At the middle school and elementary level, they might meet not as frequently, but they will be expected to have some sort of advisory meeting, and then also allowing young people to kind of help set the agenda to the extent that they're able to set the agenda around that topic. And so, did I answer your question, or?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You answered enough for me to draw a conclusion. So that's, I don't think it was a bad answer. Let me be clear about that. It was more so just around like now that after the announcement, the implementation, right? Like,
Yep.
And so is there a goal for, I know you said like every school, so is that going to be measured like we've gotten 30 out of the?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so to answer that question, we've talked about how do we demonstrate that every school has an advisory panel, and that may be either pictures or the students who are participating in that advisory panel. And so also being sensitive to, with our elementary students in particular, making sure that we protect their identities and things like that. But it might just be like they meet the first Friday of every month and have topics, so there's some way to kind of demonstrate from an artifact, so to speak, or evidence of this is how they're meeting.
So, Dr. Roby, correct me if I'm not interpreting what you're asking, but this bullet point will be checked off when all schools in the district have an advisory.
Yes.
See, that's not how I read that. That's to your point.
But that's what you were asking, right?
So I see that as an announcement, like, oh, we're ready to hit the go button, to announce that we have a structure in place, not necessarily that the school actually has one in place. You get what I'm
No, we
saying?
want to make sure that it's not just a structure, but it actually is operationalized where we can say the first Friday of every month, this is when this particular group meets, and it's something that's announced so that people are able to have evidence of it, so to speak, versus saying, listing names of people. And that's something that our academic team, as well as our executive directors, we've been talking with our principals around how do we lift up student voice in a meaningful way, and then also convening a group, allowing them the opportunity to, obviously how it's shaped will look different from elementary to high school, but then allowing a place of how do we shape it and what they're able to do versus not do. And the example I can give is, as a former building principal, I had to tell our students when I did my scholar advisory, it's like, we have a 5-day school day. It's like, it's a 5-day school week. We won't be able to negotiate a 3-day or 4-day school week. It's like there's some limitations to what we're able to do. And so making sure that our young people understand what advocacy and agency means. And, it might be having something, school spirit kind of events at the elementary level versus changing the structure of a school.
So I will lift this up and say I'm happy to see that that's even a goal of yours and administration to be able to put it forward, because it does teach our scholars how to be future board seaters, regardless of where they're going to sit, whether it's on the county or anything of that nature. It does train them with the skill set to know how to operate as a board or a working board of that nature. So I think that is great scholar implementation to
Good
make sure that we're
training
training them up. Yeah.
Yep.
Mrs. Roby, I have a personal question. With this individual scholar advisories, would it be possible to have, per se, even just me and Ms. Davis be able to introduce ourselves to a few or even all of those advisory councils, so we, as you said, to guide them in the way of advocacy and show them how they can create change in their own schools? Would that be possible to have a meeting with the superintendent advisory?
Fix. And so I know that both Dr. Lovelady Mitchell, as well as I saw Mr. Armstrong, who is the supervisor of the high school scholar advisory group, we can manage to figure out how that looks like and what that would look like for younger people.
Ms. White?
One of the questions or a suggestion is to maybe add an as-of date, so when it's completed, maybe putting when it was completed. So if I was looking on here and I seen something checked, and I'm like, well, yesterday it wasn't like that. Well, it was as of today, so.
The goal is by the end of first semester. That's the.
You're speaking more broadly to.
Broadly.
Yeah.
Like large quadrant-based executive director models, when did that happen? It could be as of October 1st, just for reference, as these things getting checked off, when I look on here and, and something is new, my question would be, I wonder when that started, That's a simple thing we might be able to add. And then my question is, the target goals, are target goals ever added to this?
Yes, and so if you keep in mind that this dashboard is relatively new, it's been introduced in the last 30 days, and so the goal is we didn't want to produce a final product. It's iterative, right? And so as we get additional information and even components within, we'll start to drill down and be a little bit more specific as it grows and evolves. So yes.
It's a living document, obviously. And then, are we unchecking things if that is no longer that way? So if you say.
If it's no longer, I can imagine that there would be an opportunity for that. I mean, and so let's say if we had 100% mastery of a particular metric and we've had it for a number of periods of time, it might be something where it's like, okay, do we still need to measure this because it may not be as important? But again, this is a 30-day-old kind of, we're not at that point where we can just say, yep, we can check this one off.
Yeah, oh, but it's a possible.
It's a possibility, yes, yes, to answer your question.
Well, but I was really kind of speaking more specific to like if, I was trying to get a example that I'm looking at, but if, for instance, we lose health support, service support at 6 of our schools, would that be incomplete? You know what I mean? Like, so if we get to something and then we lose that, how, you know, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, if you say 100% of our schools have working technology and then 80% don't.
Yeah, I think, again, to that point, because it should be a fluid document, and let's use the 80%, you know, we had 100%, and then next month, because 20% of our technology went bad, then we'd be able to say we went to 80%, but then I would say that that would be a conversation of the why behind it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so I think it should be something
Like
that's
minor
fluid.
things, but in the spirit of transparency, we don't want to continue to say, well, it's complete. Well, it's complete, you know, when we completed it, but not anymore.
And again, I think from the spirit of transparency, it would go up and down.
Okay.
And it should be fluid. And again, there's very few things that I would imagine that you would get to 100% and be like, okay, we're done with that.
Okay.
Take it off. And so, but yeah, it should be a fluid document, and we're asking those owners of those individual components to be sensitive to updating it on a regular basis, and some are harder to track, like daily or weekly. It might be, you know, it's an update monthly, but being sensitive to that.
Yeah, there are a number of things on here that do require maintenance. I think you're asking, how are we going to track the maintenance? And that may be something, maybe after we're doing this, we have one that tracks an overall, and then one where we start at the top of each school year and say, so that's
Year
good
over year.
feedback. We'll
Yeah.
have to look at.
Or make it interactive. So therefore, if I need to click on a particular item, that's where the footnotes pop up that gives the details of, by such and such day, we didn't reach this amount of goal, and we are recalibrating to do X, Y, and Z. So that way, either the overall image itself isn't impacted with too much noise on the picture itself, but allow people to deep dive. If there was a update of 100 to now 80%, that detail can kind of deep dive into that aspect of it.
Okay, I think Ms. Milton was
Yeah.
trying to get in.
Well, that's okay. It's more of a macro response. I know as a district, we've really done a great job of asking our staff to do SMART goals. And now including, you know, equity and inclusion, such an important piece. So as I'm looking at this, the one thing I think we might have overlooked is that concept. If we look at, for example, enact food service survey, and then the next one, regular transportation updates and feedback, we may be able to accomplish that at 100%. But the reason for advisory boards and all of these pieces is something different than what we've written. So when we think about relevancy in terms of a SMART goal, I'd love to see these tied into an objective that seems relevant to our families that have spoken into this through, you know, all the surveys, the hours that we've done. I'd love there to just be a statement that helps people understand the goal isn't updates, the goal isn't blogs, the goal is improvement. And I think that's just a miss maybe on this. And if it's iterative, that's great, and that just might be where we've started. But that layering in, I think, is an essential component of really doing what we've asked our staff to do for several decades now.
I will say I do recall at the last, I don't remember what school that was, but I do recall President Williams and Dr. Roby stating that, and I believe it could have been you that brought it up in regards to tying these goals to our actual plan, so that way people can see this is affiliated or associated with X, Y, and Z. I do recall that they were talking about doing that. I'm not quite sure who posed that question. I just do remember it being answered by the two of you in that regards.
To that point, I think that there are opportunities for continued finessing and around that tying specifically to our strategic plan, so that if the goal is to increase 10% year over year, I'm just using that as an example, 10% year over year, to say we'll report quarterly on this and to show that either we're meeting that metric or not. So
Sure.
duly noted.
Yeah, so yeah, it might be more than just, but creating a safe, reliable transportation system, for example, might be a really great objective for that. And then underneath, it might be some of those specific goals that are very controllable and checkable.
So you're asking for more specifics, is that what you're saying?
Specifics to improvement. So the outcome would be something visible and tangible to our families, which is what we all want. We don't want just to give updates. We want to have a safe system to send our send our kids on. So that's the piece that I think is missing. And connecting it to the strategic plan is one thing, and I think that's important, you're right, and we have had that discussion. But in terms of a SMART goal, that relevancy and achievability is what we're missing. So we, I'm sure, have further
So you're wanting
conversation.
to say, we have improved on-time pickups by 30%. You want to, that's what you're
Towards
asking.
the goal of a safe and reliable transportation system, yes.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that there is, well, and I'll put it this way. I think we've talked about this a few different times as well, is that this is 30 days in. It is going to be a living, breathing document, and there will be other iterations to come, and we will have many opportunities to chat about that as a board, as to what we would like to see from this as it continue to grow and as we continue to do our work and develop things from our vantage point as well. So is there something else with regards to that?
No?
I do have one question though. Kind of hearkening back to Stephen's question about the percentages, and you didn't have it in your presentation, but on the Reimagine Air Quality piece, we have about 11 schools listed with some target goals, and we have a 77% status piece.
So it's 77% of the entire district right now, and we are working to create a document that you'll be able to click on here so you can see all of the ones listed. The ones that are listed here are just the ones that don't have air conditioning when we launch the dashboard.
So the 70% is regard to the entire district?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Even though it says for all schools. You see what I'm saying about like word choice? So like if it is for the entire district, then I think.
So it does say that though, investment in HVAC and ensure all schools have air conditioning. So 70% of those in the entire district do have it. Got it.
So, and so what I think we've given some feedback
Constructive
about some
feedback.
of the nuances that we see that we can continue to change and update this dashboard. So if, again, we have opportunities to share with Dr. Roby directly, as well as amongst ourselves about these things that we'd like to see. So is it okay if we move forward? Okay. And then I think, Dr. Roby, so.
So the last part of our presentation is updates
Thank you,
related.
guys. Thank
No?
you.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, I was gonna say. Is some specific training related to professional development, and this was something that took place in just prior to the start of the school year, and these are safety and security staff from across our county, including our own district as well as some neighboring districts. And I think what's important about this is that oftentimes with our safety and security team members, they do, that network is pretty small, and they do share information with one another, what's going on across district schools, and it's a nice way for professional development, to build collegiality, and to share what's happening, because as you know, many of our young people travel from one community to another, and this is just a quick 3-4 minute video around the training that took place, and Mr. Hendricks can tee it up. I know that I saw Mr. Johnson in the back, if he wants to come forward and add any additional comments related to this. If not, that's fine too, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just wanted to make sure that as he's here, he can provide an overview as well.
All right, you teed it up beautifully. We will just play the video.
Their faces tell you the lessons today is intense, it's serious, it's real, and it can be a matter of life and death. Hello, I'm Larry Johnson, the Chief of Staff and the Executive Director of Public Safety for the Grand Rapids Public Schools. Today, we want to give you a peek inside the work that it takes to train our public safety officers before the opening of a school year.
That's something you have to come up with before this incident?
This year we had a special guest join us, the school resource officer who was on duty when the Oxford school shooting took place in November of 2021. It is our hope that the tragedy that he lived through will help prepare our officers through training for worst case scenarios in the event that it happens on the doorstep of their schools.
This is Training Week, a gathering one of a kind in Michigan.
So what's your why?
Officers from school districts throughout Kent County coming together for common training to protect our children at school.
On his first trip through, not the second one.
And on this day, a reality check as to how serious this work truly is.
This is what in the movies they call the 1,000-yard stare.
Jason Lowert is a name you might not recognize, but his story is one you surely do. He played a crucial role when the unthinkable happened at Oxford High School in 2021. It was the school where he was on duty as the school resource officer when a student opened fire, ultimately killing 4 of his classmates.
There was just pure evil in operation that day, from the person that did this.
Lowert has since retired from his role as a sheriff's deputy and now works for Grand Rapids-based Secure Education Consultants, hoping his experience can impact others.
You have to think about things ahead of time.
Driving home the importance of training and preparation.
You can't make this up as this event is unfolding. You're not going to come up with good ideas that you've never thought before when there's bad things happening all around you and there's chaos. They found their 5th hour teacher.
This was just a small part of a full week of training.
You go there, back off.
Exercises and hands-on learning for some 100 school security officers, fronted by school security experts throughout the area. While some of the work is tactical, the biggest part of their work is relational.
So when you make it to high school,
when we offer that to them in the course of our duties, there's no telling how much that impacts that kid.
Being there for a young person who may be struggling.
I think there's a lot more stories out there about, I didn't go down this path because of this interaction with this security guard or this teacher or this counselor or even the custodian that was just nice to somebody that nobody else is nice to. I think kids that are troubled are often looking for that. It can be very simple to give it to them if we just look for that opportunity.
In today's environment, the role of school security officer has never been more important. Their presence changes, and in some cases, even saves lives.
They're in the best position to stop things from getting worse.
We would like to thank Jason Lowert and Secure Education Consultants for partnering with us to keep our scholars safe. Would you join me in thanking all of our school safety officers for their bravery, commitment, and dedication for keeping kids safe in all school districts in this community?
Questions about that for Mr. J? Or?
I appreciate your journalistic transfer of knowledge with the voice and the intense music of knowing that the News 8 training in good effect there. No, I do think it was, I do want to say to you capturing that, but also Mr. Larry Johnson himself for putting in some measures to make sure that we do have a system-wide approach to potential disasters that we are not exempt from. And so the aspect of that could never happen here until it happens, and to be prepared and put some measures in place and bring that not just for our district, but citywide, what it appeared to be based on the video, I think is a wise thing, especially when you see how when disasters does happen across the city, you do have neighboring police force that come and join arms. So to see that same type of support being with our school districts across the West Michigan area, I think is very wise and a smart thing. So thank you for showing that video.
When will the teachers have a training that's, I mean, not a Saturday one, like built into their schedule? Is that planned at all?
So there's, we do have some professional development that has been lifted up a couple of times over the course of the year. We try to do both weekend as well as some evening things. And then we're also, we have a draft of the comprehensive school safety plan. And then the other thing that we've asked building leadership to do is to have some components related to safety training that is built into both staff meetings and on professional development days as well, some different components, but specifically the staff safety training, the more in-depth training, it's not something that you can do in a 45-minute time frame. It does require some additional training. And one of the things that we have been sensitive to is providing a schedule at a year at a glance so that it doesn't surprise people. So if you can't come to maybe the September training, you might be able to come to a February training and such. And so I think it's important that people have multiple on-ramps because there's not a one-size-fit-all and being very sensitive to that. We've also talked about other opportunities with distance learning or online learning opportunities as well, but then those are more smaller snapshots related.
So currently there isn't one except for outside of their schedule.
Say that, I'm sorry, say that again.
There's no training offered to teachers right now except for outside of their work schedule?
There
their
are,
contract time?
there has been some, but it's been something specifically around like that immediate, like fire drills, shelter in place, kind of those immediate things, but more of the safety and security measures, that's a little bit longer of a training. So.
I was gonna uplift those trainings, actually. I like that they're available, and some are during the week, some on the weekends. And my question, I think you answered. So when I see Security School Staff Academy, that is the same training offered at different times of the year. So if you can't make one,
Yes.
it's the same one.
Yes, and we've also talked about, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we are talking about even around what our school scholar forums could be around safety, because we want to make sure that our young people have skin in the game, so to speak, around this is their school environment, and everybody has a responsibility of, you know what I mean? And
I was watching the Kentwood Q&A after the incident in East Kentwood, and somebody did bring up, like, we know it is not our scholars' responsibility to de-escalate anything, but what can they do? You know, how do we give them tools to, turn around, walk away, don't give it attention. Like, what can they do to de-escalate without getting involved? So I think that will definitely be.
Yep, and that's something that we're also looking at too, because it is important. We want to make sure that young people have a variety of skills, because people will feel different in different scenarios, and it's about giving them multiple training spots to be in, and so, yeah. And that concludes my report for the evening.
I would like to advise the public, if you would like to make a public comment in our last opportunity, please make sure you get your cards in promptly at the back table. And then we have our action item, which is the purchasing agenda. Are there any questions with regards to the purchasing agenda?
I did have one question, and I was hoping Ms. Cribbs could, I don't know if you could answer. I know you gave us a lot of answers from our finance committee meeting. I just wanted a little clarification. Again, one item that we are voting on is the reallocating an existing blanket by $180,000 from Robert Half International to changing it to make staffing and recruiting. And then we're adding an additional 320,000. And so I'm wondering what, obviously some of that goes to paying the staff, correct? But what is the percentage that, do you know what goes?
I don't know
You
what the
don't know?
admin fee is on top of it for
Okay.
mixed staffing.
And the reason I ask is because, and I'm not sure what our, starting salary, and in your email, I did see that you noted that there are no applications currently in the secretary pool, and that is one of the big areas where they do cover staffing shortages. And the reason for my question is the money that we are paying a staffing agency equal to maybe, a raise in starting pay for secretaries to make that more of a, an attractive position for folks. Obviously, folks aren't applying right now, so we need to figure out, right, what obviously compensation is a huge part of someone taking a position, so I just kind of had that in mind, because while I understand, we have to fill those positions, I also, want us to, obviously we all want to be smart with our finances, but I don't know if you could find that information for
That's
me
what
at a
I say, I
later
can
date.
work with HR and get that. When I just saw a glance of some of the hourly rates, they're similar to our salary compensation schedule. So I don't think there's a huge difference between this amount that we're paying the temporary salaries.
Oh, sorry, no, I wasn't
versus
asking
what
that.
are actual if you were hired as a secretary at GRPS. I don't think there's a big variance there. Typically, when we do contract with outside services, the admin fee that we pay the company is less than our benefit rates. So that's usually where, technically there's a savings usually if we outsource to these temporary agencies. But also, it's our stopgap measure, and that's not what we want. Ideally, we would like
Right.
to have GRPS employees. So it's just the temporary stopgap measure to make sure we've got some building secretary there in front of, to assist in buildings. It's primarily those positions right now are building-based, where we've got secretarial vacancies.
Right. And just for clarification, I wasn't asking about the discrepancy between pay for temporary staffing versus the staff that we would hire. I was just asking, how much more are we spending on, and you said that it's a savings, right, of
Typically,
X amount of dollars,
like I said,
right?
I don't know what the admin fee is
Right.
on the mixed staffing, but historically speaking, when we've used the outside temporary agencies, the admin fee that they charge for providing that service is less than our benefit rates.
Okay.
And do you anticipate with this switch, not similar to what he was asking, but do you anticipate with switching of these two different entities that we are better positioned in the district to fill those gaps?
It's my understanding from HR when we asked the question is when we used the other company last spring, they were only filling 2 or 3 positions. We had more vacancies than that. With switching to this company, we kind of started with a small amount, but they started to actually be able to find people to help us.
So yes.
So that's where we've gone from filling 2 or 3 positions last spring using the other company to this one. I think the list I had was 12 that they're currently filling for us. So that's the other reason. That's the reason for the substantial increase. When we have 0 applicants at this point and they're filling 12 positions weekly, and in all honesty, I just kind of looked at it and said, somewhere over the next 9 months, we'll likely have more secretaries leave us, unfortunately. We'll fill a few, but it's just going to be kind of that turnover. And rather than to come back repeatedly, I need to come back in December and increase it, and then I need to come back in March and increase it. We were trying to get out to what do we think is a reasonable estimate for the expense for the whole year. If all of a sudden we have a large number of applicants apply and we can fill those positions, we just won't use that part of the blanket. It will, it will sit there. At some point, we may decide to reduce it, but our goal is to fill those positions with GRPS employees. So.
Thank you.
And the money that is not being spent on the employees themselves, where does that go? I mean, in theory, it could
That
be
will kind of be
shifted.
one of those when I
Yeah.
come through with a budget amendment.
It would be
We'll
shifted.
reduce the salary and benefit lines and increase the temporary salaries. So
We'll
when we
balance
look
out.
at those budget amendments, but that's one of the things we're looking at.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the purchasing agenda? Mr. Ross, Mr. Eaton?
All right, Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross? Ms. Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we need approval for the consent agenda groupings. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda groupings?
So moved.
Support then.
Shaki, Mr. Eatman?
Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Ms. Melton?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shaki?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Under board announcements, I know some colleagues wanted to discuss and have an opportunity to discuss community engagement and responsiveness. So I'll open up the floor, and I'm asking colleagues again if we can make our comments, keep them 2 to 3 minutes, and if you want to engage, you are welcome to have comment. If not, you don't have to as well, but I do want to make sure that there is opportunity for board members to speak.
What is the specific topic? I don't see it.
Regarding the community engagement, responsiveness to any
The
of.
Eureka report?
Yes.
I didn't see that on the agenda in any way to prepare for it.
Yeah, I
You
sent
can
out
let
an
me know.
email
Yeah.
too, with regards, a text message to everybody as well.
Yeah, sorry, I was in engagements all day.
Oh.
And all week
Well,
last
it
week.
wasn't today.
No, and all week last week. Yep, no, I would.
Okay, well, is there anyone else that would like to make comments?
I mean, I think in general, we were talking 3 weeks ago, I believe it is now, maybe 2 weeks ago, about the idea of our responsiveness to the Eureka report, some of the requests from the community priorities that happened last spring around the budget time, so March. And there was a desire to make sure that our community was feeling heard and that the work that was going on, a lot of behind the scenes work, was kind of brought forward in a way that could, I don't know, make sure that the community knew what was happening and being a bit more transparent, as aligned with our strategic plan goals. So that's the general conversation that happened at that point, wanting to make sure that that happened.
And one point that I wanted to just quick touch on too is, while I appreciate the board retreats that we have and the time that we have to discuss those, I also think that it would be beneficial for our community to have a time for us to discuss those with the community as a whole. The Eureka report lays out a lot of, honestly, a lot of work that GRPS, has been engaged in, is continuing to engage in, and work that we need to do to push our district forward. And again, I will continue to say that this report, I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful that, we were presented it, and that, props to GRPS for not really, not hiding behind, all this, critique from folks that are in the district, whether it's students or staff or families. And I think that is a first crucial step. And I think the next step, personally, would be to engage the community in this work. And again, it's one thing to be up here and say, okay, welcome to the board meeting. You can come and make comments and we can, listen to them. But it's another thing to engage with the community. It's another thing to have a back and forth dialogue. And that's something that I spoke with President Williams on. And I'm hoping that can be a reality sometime in the near future. But I think that, this report is something that I would love to digest with our community and say, hey, how can we, address these issues together? What are some ideas you have? What are some ideas we have? And how can we, meet in the middle to make this a reality?
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to engage and impact that report with community as well in some different ways. Whether it be conversations or actually, I guess we did add it to the agenda kind of, but just really
Yeah, it's not
uplifting
on.
that report in the actual agenda. So community know that we're talking about the Eureka report in our board meeting and could come out and just listen to what, is being said or however we decide to do that. I'd like to see that too.
I think one of the things that we talked about as a collective is, the no surprises, right? And so when I think about the aspect of the no surprises along with storytelling, one thing that I look forward to seeing improvements on is how do we incorporate what's been talked about from that report and how we have either responded to already or are continuously to make progress towards. I think one of those things doesn't highlight what aspects. So for instance, I'm going to reference something that you mentioned, Dr. Roby, this was months ago, in regards to something in the report came up and you're like, we are actually moving forward on that. Those are the things that I think also help storytell on behalf of the district of what we heard, but then also this is what we're doing to move forward on that, because I think the report itself, alarming, yes, informative, yes, imperative in how we're moving forward, definitely. And I think you've done some things that I think you should talk about, or in a way that the public is aware that it's not just something that we're collecting data and sitting on, but what actions have been moved forward to address said concern or said highlighted area that seems to be a thorn. And there are some things that are in the current progress, right? And there's things that you are doing in stages. So how do we go about uplifting those efforts and also measuring those where people can see the progress? So yes, we heard this. Or if there is a contradictive statement versus something that was put out there versus something that we're actually moving towards, of how do we also put that story out there that is corrective of the narrative, that aids the district and how we move forward. To me, it keeps going back to the storytelling. We all know, even in society, that negative news is something that pops up all the time. It's something that is at the forefront. But when we're talking about the progression of anything, that's usually either humbly eaten, and it doesn't have to be. And I think a full story is given both, right? Like, oh, we are acknowledging that there was some things that weren't so pretty, but we're also, what are we doing to address those? And you are doing those things. I just want to, as a board member, just say, like, I'm in full support of you actually carrying your story and your narrative forward that is addressing some of those things that you actually are doing. Now, I know there will be times where some things are specific with personnel that it's not for the public and that you won't be able to necessarily address or publicly speak on, but there are some things that highlights that you are hearing your staff and listening to them, and when that goes down to like morale or changing of the atmosphere within a certain building or in certain around policies or procedures, I think those things should be shared and uplifted. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it with that for now.
And I have just one more. I'll open the floor if anyone else. No.
Huh?
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to speak over anyone. Just one more thing I wanted to add too is just as we speak on the Eureka report, I'm not even sure if everyone in this room understands what the Eureka report is, and that that's just something that I'm trying to rectify. Is we have all this information and we have it as a board and we have it for folks who are here at meetings sometimes, but I also want to do my part as a liaison between the district and the community to allow folks to fully understand kind of what the work is and what the Eureka report entails. And I'm looking at it now. One of the big bold points in this report is what stakeholders want. Number one, leaders listen and respond to concerns in ways that are meaningful to the people who brought the concerns to their attention. So again, going back to the point where there has to be a two-way dialogue if we want to make that a reality, to respond to concerns in ways that are meaningful, right? So kind of just to uplift the possible work of this, being an engaging session with the community, with our district, with parents and community members, just taking what stakeholders have said, have expressed that they want to see within the work of the board and within the work of the district, and just uplifting that.
Anyone else?
I mean, I would just suggest that I think it would probably be pretty easy to integrate into our dashboard. I don't know if we're open to that idea of the dashboard is out there. If we were to create some SMART goals that align to the Eureka report and some of the community requests, I think it all really lines up and represents our larger community between the facilities master plan work we did. I think they were called town hall meetings, and then the Eureka that kind of filled in some of those gaps. And then the community priorities that were shared by the UCC, they line up really well with the work that we're already doing. So I think it wouldn't take much to have some tie-ins to the dashboard that might have some timely, relevant goals. Seems like an easy way to approach.
Anyone else?
Situation.
Okay. Well, and additionally, I would like to remind the public and colleagues that our October 16th, 2023 meeting will be at City Middle High School Auditorium. And that is again at 6:30 as well. We'll go to our public comment, and we have 3 people, if you'll come up to the table. Lucas Leverett, D. Jones, and Allie Morgan. If you could speak in that order as well. You'll have 3 minutes to share your comment. Mr. Jones, do you want to come forward?
Lucas Leverett again. I'm here to urge the community to vote yes on the public school funding millage. My first reflex was a yes, as a fundamental response to the right-wing agenda to sabotage public education. But then came a compelling suggestion that we should vote no, to force GRPS to make a dent in the top-heavy and overpaid administration, correcting the ratio of admins to educators, and the mind-boggling $8 million per year in pay for those redundant top executives. I can't do that. I can't make that bet. I have seen that we cannot depend on this board in its current makeup, dominated by Larry Johnson's sycophants, opponents of transparency, and political climbers, to be trusted to make the right choices with less cash. Instead, I'll roll the dice. I'll roll the dice and make a bet on supporting the funding, and still have to fight to get you to reduce the endless ranks of bureaucrats justifying their own jobs instead of focusing on educating our kids. I'm inclined to believe that GRPS administration would choose to punish kids and families and cut funding for arts and other things that we value for our students in such a scenario. By voting yes, we will at least have the money available while we have this debate and to support critical needs like those outlined in the community budget demands. Yes, despite the corporate vultures circling this funding as seen in your sponsor lineup at the kickoff event. I'm a solid yes, but I'll name the problem. I'm a yes but vote. Yes to millage funding, but fire Larry Johnson. To make the vast changes we need in GRPS, we must topple the toxic, ineffective, corrupt, overpaid, and nepotistic regime Mr. Johnson has built as the shadow superintendent for more than 20 years. Larry has presided over enrollment decline via political surrender to white flight, numerous poor responses to safety and transportation concerns, and fostered a widely known culture of retribution against those who challenge his cabal, as we heard again tonight. I'm trying to give Dr. Roby a chance, but I realize that she'll be ineffective while the mob boss of GRPS is protected. So I encourage all voters to join me in voting yes while insisting that this board find the motivation and guts to pursue a future free of Larry Johnson. We, the people, see that the majority of this board may not be bold enough to do overdue things like this, and if that's the case, we will find candidates to fill your seats who will. Yes to school funding. Fire Larry Johnson. Time to clean house.
Mr. Jones?
How you doing, everybody? My name is D. Jones, and I'm here to speak to you about some progress I've made in the community on esports. So I've been consulting with Kent District Library for 1.5 years, and just speaking to Lance and trying to get esports to Kent District Libraries because I know it could do for a library district. Got a lot of people from our underserved community, from the hood, from all different backgrounds and ethnicities that use the library for a lot of different things. And I can say, as a black person in the second worst city for economic development, the library district has purchased hundreds of thousands of dollars in esports and gaming equipment to develop infrastructure. So change is coming, and I'm a black person creating change in one of the worst cities with a Republican dominant power structure. And I believe I'm gonna help change some things. I've been showing up to Kent County government, and I've been going before a lot of the Republicans and the Democrats, and I've been able to get some bipartisan support on my initiatives and what I'm doing around the community. And so I've been able to do some cool, powerful things around the community, and I look forward to potentially working with you guys on getting Fortnite created, the Unreal 5 engine, and seeing kids develop games around our community. I just seen that we have an art competition where kids can develop art, and I know that kids can develop games to also educate people on renewable energy and climate change and all of those cool, innovative things. And so I hope that you guys consider my feedback, because you're going to hear about my work. You're going to see how I changed infrastructure. You're going to hear about the Library Esports League and how I connected lands to the Division I colleges, and how Confluence is Festival is hosting these esports competitions. And they got all of these premier top well-off school districts that are competing in these esports competitions. But I'd like to see Ottawa Hills or City High. I like to see those underserved schools that don't have the opportunity to compete in those Confluence Festival competitions, because there are literally colleges watching them. I can show you a video if we have friends on LinkedIn. You can see my entrepreneurial journey. I would love for you guys to develop infrastructure for our underserved schools and our schools that aren't performing well, because there are literally college coaches and esports competitions going on. And that's why it's important what I'm doing, because I bring the community to the colleges, and I bring everybody together from financial advisors, and I don't just do gaming competitions, I do social impact competitions. I actually educate people on social issues like healthcare and voting. People don't know in the hood that you can vote if you have a felony, and those are things that people don't like to tell people, because obviously when you have a bear in your life, people want to keep you buried. And so I want to be able to get people get out there and sprout and grow. And so I'm really excited for the work that I'm doing with KDL. I know you guys are going to hear about it. It's super powerful. I know what I'm doing. I know who I can be. I just hope that you guys, I get to work with you guys on also developing infrastructure and continuously creating opportunities for our students here too. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Allie Morgan, and I'm the parent of 4 children who are currently enrolled at Grand Rapids Public Schools, as well as a substitute teacher for the district. I'm here to advocate for a desperately needed wage increase on behalf of the parapro and child care worker employees in this district. The positions of parapro and child care worker are absolutely essential to our schools and are often the most hands-on, intensive positions in the classrooms. In my time subbing for the school district, I have seen firsthand how vital these roles are to ensure a safe and well-functioning classroom environment. At Grand Rapids Montessori, the school where 3 of my children currently attend, one of our parapro positions started 2 years ago at a wage of $12.30 per hour. $12.30 per hour. This is simply an unacceptable pay and not anywhere near enough to cover essential living expenses for an individual, let alone a family. Another child care worker at our school who works full-time made $22,000 before taxes last school year. These positions are not even given a paid lunch break. They're given 2 15-minute breaks throughout the entire school day. Again, this is some of the most important and difficult work happening in our classrooms. At the minimum, we're demanding that these employees make a living wage, have a paid lunch break, and not have to supplement with a second full-time job, which is what many of them have to do. Their current pay from Grand Rapids Public Schools is drastically below the poverty line and clearly reflects how little the administration values these positions. In my time observing classrooms, I'm continually amazed at the dedication and talent that so many of the parapro and CCW employees bring each day. If GRPS continues to pay these employees a wage that is not enough to cover living expenses, the retention rates of these employees will be abysmal and will deteriorate trust between students, parents, and other staff. It's not fair to anyone. Educators across the country are drastically underpaid, and GRPS currently pays less than all our neighboring districts. But it does not have to be this way. GRPS has the opportunity to lead the way in paying a sustainable living wage to its many talented employees, and I truly hope that you, the board, decides to move in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent comments?
All right, so I know normally I ask our board members and myself not to respond to public comments, but I feel like I do need to do this as we have talked about culture and climate in our organization. And one of the things that I will say as any staff member, many times we hear lots of criticism and we have discourse in our school community. It is very challenging to sit here and listen as there are personal attacks made on any person. I will not stand for it. That is not who I am, just like any other staff member who people have feelings about one way or the other. We want to have a place of respect. And one of the things that I will insist on, no matter how we feel about any community member, staff member, or such, we have to be in a place of respect and not have personal attacks against people, especially when they are not allowed to respond in like. That is not the environment that this board has charged me with as we talk about culture and climate. If I can't lift up culture and climate for everyone, then I should not lift up culture and climate for anyone. And so what I will say, without directing to any one person, we have to have a place of dignity and respect. It is not about who we like or dislike, but I will say that for Mr. Johnson and for every administrator on this team, we are impassioned, we have flaws, but it's unfair to attack people personally, and I just cannot condone that. And so I cannot leave this dais this evening without saying that.
Board comments, I'll start with Ms. Melton.
None tonight.
Ms. Wade?
So shout out to the custodians, because I don't know, I would never want to do your job, and I appreciate the job that they do. And so thank you for your work. Shout out to the amazing teachers that were acknowledged today. Happy Principals Month. They are custodians too, I hear. I too want to support thriving wages for all of our GRPS staff, and wanted to uplift those words. And I bet that we have the best gamers in this world in this district. So I would love to see that happen for them.
Ms. Jackie?
Yeah, I'd like to take a moment of privilege to remember an educational leader that I had the opportunity to celebrate just a few weeks ago after his passing. His name is Ed Birch, and he's probably unfamiliar to most of you, but he was in our district in the early 70s and later served as the state superintendent of special education. So just a little of his story if you'll entertain it. So for 20 years, I got to call Ed Birch Uncle Ed and his wife Jan, Aunt Jan, when I was married to their nephew. And Janice Brown, you might recognize her name, as she was the superintendent of Kalamazoo Public Schools and brought the Kalamazoo Promise to that community. So surrounded by really exceptional leaders in that family. But when Ed was here in Grand Rapids Public Schools in the 70s, special education was not even a fraction of what it is today. And he really pioneered and led this district into valuing and supporting our students who are in our special education program. Like I said, he went on to serve as the state superintendent of special education, and he also was pivotal in enacting legislation here in the state of Michigan to support our special education students through the age of 25. And he did that before IDEA came at the federal level. I learned from his family that Michigan has led the way for a long time in special education. Ed was a delightful spirit, a joy to be around. He was the kind of guy that was more curious about you than sharing anything about his story. So when I listened to his eulogy and to a former colleague of his in Grand Rapids Public Schools, I so appreciated hearing a story that, of course, he would never tell himself. And it was simple. His colleague was his mentee, and Ed was promoted to assistant superintendent in our district. And this individual congratulated him on the promotion. And Ed said, "This promotion is not about me. All that this means is now I have more access to the people and the resources to support our students." So might we all heed that call in the positions we are in this district. Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
I just want to uplift, I'll find the exact name, Mr. Drosky from City Middle High. He is a PE teacher there. And on Saturday, he had invited middle schoolers to come to Union and run the cross-country route for the high school cross-country meet. So after the high schoolers ran, some middle schoolers got to run the same route that the high schoolers did. And they ran up that big hill that I sled down with my kids 3 times, up and down. And he told them, so now you can join cross-country because that's the hardest race you'll ever do. So it was just it was a small event, but it was really special because it was all about just encouraging those middle schoolers to get into something where they can be a part of a team. There was free t-shirts for the middle schoolers and lots of snacks and stuff for families. So it was a really nice event.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, so I also want to give a shout out to custodians like Trustee Wade took the time to. Shout out Gary at Elder. He definitely took the time to, become friends and give me a nice conversation, every once in a while after work. And principals as well. But one thing that I would like to touch on too is just the idea of wages and pay and a living wage. As we see writers, auto workers, baristas, delivery drivers, right, feel empowered to fight for a better wage. I also, I know I can't do this by myself, and I would love the board to, also kind of be encouraged to feel the same way, to be the district that leads the way in providing a living wage. I also was a child care worker, starting off in GRPS in 2017, making about like $11 an hour. It was horrible. It wasn't sustainable. I had lived with 3 other people, and if I didn't, I definitely would be on the streets. So just thinking about that, and we've all had jobs that paid, $9, $10, $11 an hour. And it's just not sustainable. And if we want to have a thriving workforce, if we want to have folks who, are not working 2 or 3 jobs and have the energy to come and work with our children and do their best when they come into our schools, then we need to pay, a living wage. We need to pay them enough to not need a second job, not need a side hustle. We're obsessed with side hustles. We're obsessed with working 60 hours a week. But, in reality, work comes secondary. Life is important to enjoy your life and to enjoy the things, outside of just worrying about bills. And so just leaving you with that, I absolutely support a thriving wage, and I'm glad folks brought that up today.
Mr. Eatman?
I just will say I'll echo the sentiments of Trustee Wade in the announcements, and also congratulations again to all of our scholars who were entered into Art Prize and the art. That is extremely important, and I just wanted to highlight the winner again. That's about it.
Yes. We've heard a lot of negative things this evening about ourselves and the people who work for us, and I'd just like to say that I'm very proud of the people who work for us. They've been kind and supportive of me when I've traveled around the district and tried to figure out who's principal of what school. But I think what story I would like to share is this happened about 6 years ago. I found out that one of my granddaughter, Kayla's, a friend had an older brother who was going to start high school, and he was an eighth grader at Aberdeen. And I was talking to his mom, and she said, well, we're looking around. We're thinking maybe he'll have to go to a charter school or he'll have to go to Northview. And I said, oh, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to find a place for him. So I took him around. I took him to Innovation Central. I took him to Union High School, and I took him to C.A. Frost. And he decided to stay at C.A. Frost. He's graduated now from C.A. Frost, and he is a sophomore at community college studying air conditioning and heating and air, yeah. And I saw the mom the other night at a volleyball game, and she is just thrilled that he stayed in Grand Rapids Public Schools and had the chance to have this education. And so even though we do all kinds of things wrong, and I agree that there are things that we do that are wrong, but we do a lot of things really well. And sending our kids off to college is one of them, for free.
Thank you. Mr. Ross?
Yeah, I think I would echo a couple of comments. The most recent from Ms. Down Lewis. I mean, definitely a lot of good things that go on in the district, but of course we all know there's a lot of opportunity for some growth and improvement for sure. I think one of those things in regards to the dashboard, I just want to uplift some of the commentary from Ms. Milton earlier. I do think sort of a macro approach to identifying some SMART goals and being a bit more specific on how the district is working towards those particular goals, I think is sort of the spirit that we were looking for from the dashboard. So I do, like we all know, it's sort of a work in progress, but I do think that's one point from our conversation earlier that would probably help that be a bit more of a useful tool for community, as well as being more of an accountability tool that I think we were all looking for with that. Also, I think just also echoing, I think all of us up here obviously care about our students and our staff, our hardworking staff, and I think I just want to publicly say there's definitely no conspiracy here to pay folks at the top one way and pay folks in the other direction a different way. I think if we can maybe be more intentional and creative, we can figure out how to uplift everyone who works for the district. But again, that's one thing easier said than done, but I think we're all on the same page as probably having a desire to at least do that. I just want to just sort of publicly offer that as well.
Lastly, I will make comments. Thanks to everyone who came out to share comments with us tonight. We appreciate your time and your dedication to staying with us. I would like to speak about Custodians Day. My dad was a custodian in GRPS, and he worked in many different schools until he passed and made some wonderful friends and relationships. So I'll speak his name, which was Mike Fuller and Don Singleton, and one of his really good buddies, which he had the nickname of Twitty. I don't know if you guys know that or not, or if you know him, but he is a Caucasian male with curly hair. If you see him, lift him up as well. He is just an awesome guy, and I appreciated the lifelong relationships that my dad was able to foster and here in GRPS, and the opportunities for growth for him as well. So I appreciate that, and I ask that you make sure that you do your best to take care of our buildings as well and lighten the load for them. So thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.